back to the Small Business Show, where you get to hear the journey, find the challenge, and create solutions. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and I thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with Justin Lawrie, founder and CEO of Grey Duck Studios, where six-figure virtual events are not just a dream, but a system. With over 300 high converting online events under his belt, Justin is the go to strategist for coaches, consultants, and thought leaders ready to turn their audiences into clients without stress. From seamless tech to strategic marketing, Justin helps you host events that sell while you sleep. If you want your next event to generate major revenue, tune in and take notes because this is the episode for you. Justin, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
I am glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm super excited to dive into the story of Great X Studios. But before we get there, I want to rewind just a bit. I want to go back to the days of, say, junior high or high school. Let's go way back. And I want
Okay.
you to think about a time when maybe an aunt or an uncle or even a mentor or, a counselor or a teacher even may have asked you, Justin, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was your answer to that question back then?
It was a teacher, actually. I always wanted to be a teacher for years. I had a passion for doing it. I've always enjoyed working with kids and youth. I
Nice.
grew up in the scouting program, so I was able to give back in that. I'm an Eagle Scout, so I was able to give back in that way, but I've always enjoyed teaching and sharing knowledge. So it was always a teacher for a very long time. But yeah.
Nice. So you were thinking teacher,
Mhm.
and somewhere along the way during this journey called life, you made a
Mhm.
pivot and you decided that the entrepreneurial journey was something that was going to fit more into your lifestyle. So tell me about that moment. What was that scenario? Give us that story.
So yeah, I graduated high school and I kind of took a break from education for a while.
Hmm.
I didn't go right in. I didn't do the traditional directly into college thing.
Hmm.
Eventually went into college and I was doing classes and I was doing fine, but I realized this wasn't my thing anymore. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is I loved school. Growing up, loved it. I know that's a weird thing to hear people say, but I did. I had great teachers growing up and I always loved school, but going into the college setting, it just wasn't for me. And it just finally was this light bulb moment of like, there's something better I could do. And I was essentially doing, even while in college, at the gig economy.
Mm.
Fiverr had just started and I was doing well
Mm.
on that. And, I was like, I don't need a traditional college degree. And I just kind of stopped. I stopped registering. I just
Hmm.
didn't care anymore. And I
Yeah.
started pursuing the gig economy. And then I want to say it was probably about 2022 is when the light bulb moment for me went on and I started really tackling the virtual events side of it. But well, actually, no, virtual events for me started probably 2018, 2019, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about that. What was it that you were doing with Fiverr? What do you feel like really helped you with that portion of the gig economy?
Economy, what I liked about it, it was always, I loved the money aspect of it, but I also
Hmm.
liked that everything was different. It wasn't the same thing every day. It wasn't, okay, today we're learning about XYZ, and now do this paper, and then, you may never use this again in your life, but you still had to do it. Whereas the gig economy, I felt like I was actually contributing because that thing that I
Right.
produced or I created
Mm.
was actually do again going back to that. I like helping others. I like sharing knowledge. I like providing. That always drives home a lot more for me personally
Mhm.
than create this tangible thing that is not going to mean anything the second you leave this class. I
You
have a
know,
hard drive full of papers that I
yeah.
haven't touched in years.
Yeah, yeah, I think I think you're one of millions with that story too. Just before the pandemic hit, what was it that sparked your interest in virtual events? Because I want to hear all about the start of Great X Studios and kind of
Yeah,
dive in there.
so we got to take it back to while I was still in college, actually. So I had completed my first semester, and then I got invited to join the National Society of Leadership and Success, which is a national honor
Congrats.
society for
Hmm.
colleges. And somehow, through a weird chain of events, ended up being the vice president and then ended up becoming the president for that organization, which that org that chapter just always struggled. And
Hmm.
they struggled with getting people to, because that program has things they have to complete. There were certain
Hmm.
there was like an orientation, a leadership training day, success networking teams, all these things they had to do. And I was the one that was crazy enough to be like, because they were only doing in person at the time. And I'm like, what if we tried it virtually on Zoom?
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, this will never work. Even the national office, because as the president, I met with the national office weekly, and they were telling me, like, this is never going to work. Like, you're crazy. This is not best practice. We would advise you not to do this. Like, it was very much danger, Will Robinson kind of
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. So I did it. Huge success. I had the highest orientation numbers. I'm like, okay, orientation worked really well, but now can I do it with an LTD? And I just started doing them one by one, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, there's something here because I was not only getting the numbers,
Hmm.
I was also seeing the same engagement as if they were in the room,
Right.
by using things like breakout rooms and creating small groups and keeping the engagement up. So I'm like,
Hmm.
there's something there. Well, fast forward to 2022. Amidst the pandemic, saw an ad by a famous Barry Bumgarner and
Hmm.
Blue Melnick, who I know you've had on the show.
Yes.
And they were like, come to the virtual event on virtual events, April, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I sign up. I'm like, this makes total sense. I can do this. Like, I could do exactly what Barry and Blue are doing and help other
Hmm.
businesses. I could turn this into a gig economy, essentially. I'm like, and I like it because I get to work with entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, and all of them to help them, which, again, going back to that teaching background, I enjoy. So signed up for that, wound up signing up for Leap, which is their coaching program, the live event accelerator program.
Hmm.
I've been in that now for a while. And, I just really kind of took hold to what Barry and Blue were teaching. And I went all in on Obvio, which is the software they developed, and really started using that, went full in. And we still use Obvio to this day at Great Oak. I mean, we don't do anything without it.
Pandemic, like virtual events and virtual meetings, doing anything digitally was it was like pulling teeth to get people to do a virtual meeting. It was pulling teeth to get people to not need you to be on site somewhere. And it was time consuming, the amount of commuting that I used to do back in the day. So I'm very familiar with the mindset, and I'm curious as to what it was you did to help push that mindset shift, or was it you set the event up and after the event the buy-in of the mindset shift occurred?
I mean, in some cases, it's both. In
Yeah.
a lot of
Okay.
cases, with the NSLS, I was working
Hmm.
against them, telling me this is not best practice. This is never going to
Right.
work. Where then when we got to 2020 and everyone shut down, all these campuses were like, we don't know what to do. I had campuses calling me, asking, what did you do and how do I do it? Like, I essentially set the standard for how to do these meetings
I love
virtually. And to, the national office was calling me and being like, okay, tell us how you're doing this because obviously you know how to do this.
it.
Like, I became the gold standard of how to do it.
I
And
love
it
it.
just, It was crazy. I never expected that kind of thing, but it happened. And then, when Grey Duck started, which originally was under a different name, but
Mhm,
when we started it, it really took a while to get, and I think because we started Grey Duck as the pandemic was winding down and it was
mhm,
starting to, people were hungry for those in-person events, and we started running the numbers,
mhm,
and we're like, you realize you're saving 75% keeping it to virtual than you are going in person. And the way we did it was really simple. We contacted an event planner and priced out that exact same event at a hotel, all the bells and
mhm,
whistles, and we
mhm.
ran the numbers. And I literally went line by line on that quote, and I crossed out all the things that you don't need. And it was about 75% came off. And what's even crazier than we realized is not only did they save 75%, but their earnings from the event went up 53%
Mhm.
on average, which was crazy when we ran those numbers.
That's impressive. It's amazing how when you streamline something, the return on investment is impressive. Whether it be the process of setting up the event, the process of the back end, the process of the marketing. When you streamline your processes, you get to see things soar. So your journey just speaks volumes to so many different areas, Justin. It's difficult to contain the level of excitement I have right. Okay, so you've already spoken to how it is you keep attendees engaged in terms of, utilizing the breakout rooms and really kind of focusing on making sure those different areas are covered. What do you feel is something that tech-wise that helped you dramatically boost the engagement
Oh,
specifically?
Obvio.
So,
Obvio.
Avio, okay,
100%. I credit
okay.
that to Blue and Berry, 1000%. The fact that Obvio is really a purpose-built software. It
Hmm.
is, but it's taken from the approach of the host first, and that's something we tell clients all the time. We think host first. It's Blue and Berry teach it. I'm a big believer of it. The host, if the host ain't happy, doesn't matter with the attendees. But Obvio really just makes it super easy, because we can have things like the breakout rooms, we can have the
Hmm.
gamification element, we can have it all in a centralized hub. I'm not having to say, go in your email and find a Zoom link. I can just say, go to your dashboard. And when they click the
Right.
link, it takes them right to. So yeah, Obvio was a huge game changer for us when I was salivating when Blue did the demo at that TVE. I'm like, this is amazing. And I didn't even know that it was included in Leap at that point. I
Oh,
had signed up for Leap not even knowing that part. And then
nice.
I found out it was included, and he's
Right.
literally saying, "Don't buy it. It's included." And I'm like, oh, "Good deal."
Like I said, he's pretty impressive. So, yes, for
He
those
was.
viewers who haven't had a chance to check out Blue's episode, please be sure to go back and check that out. Blue Melnick. I unfortunately should remember the episode number, but I've done quite a number. So, Blue Melnick,
It was
go
like
check it
50
out.
something. It was like
Thank
50
you.
something. I just
Thank you,
listened to it
Justin.
recently.
I appreciate you for that. Oh,
Well,
goodness.
Blue,
It's not,
oddly enough, so for those that don't know, as I said, I'm in that coaching program, and I was talking to Blue. So we have office hours every week with Blue,
mhm.
and I was talking to Blue about
Yeah.
being on the show, and he was like, "Hey, you should go listen to my episode." And
Yeah.
he like without missing a beat knew the number. I was like, "That's impressive, Blue."
That is that is really impressive. Is it 53?
I
You just
think
said
it is. I
okay,
think
yeah.
so. I'm not positive.
Okay, so you were just
One of your
mentioning it's
viewers can fact
53.
check
We're
me
gonna
on that
that
one.
that's what I was gonna say. Somebody can fact check them. Maybe I'll fact check you later and we'll make sure to drop the link on the show notes page for it. And I'll also include the link to Obvio in the show notes page for any of the viewers that are interested in checking that out as well. So thank you for both of those plugs there, Justin. I'm curious. All right, you've done well over 300 successful events. What do you feel like are some of the most critical points for someone who's new to running events that they should really be focusing on in like the first 30 days of planning their event? What are those
Content,
pieces that they
content,
should?
content.
There you go.
It, it's content. And not just content, but also making sure your content is positioned in a way that it sells whatever it is you're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we teach at Grey Duck, we teach the 3x3 PAG, which is a formula that is used by a lot of them. Blue and Berry use it, Russell Brunson, Dean Graziosi, Nick Nimmons, Alex Kermozzi, they all use it. We use it as well. And I tell clients all the time, I'm like, you can try and do it without the formula, but it's not going to work. Like, Barry has this famous line, and she says it all the time. I'll keep it PG, but don't F with the formula. you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of true. Don't mess with it. It works. We know it works, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
help you structure that content in a way that works. Like,
Mm-hmm.
trust us. This isn't something you want to really guess. You know,
It's like when you enter a new organization, standard ops are what they are generally because they work.
yeah,
They're not there for show. They're not shiny object syndrome in the corner. Standard ops are there because they work and they help. So when you find someone who's able to help you develop those standard ops or gives you a template for them, it's gold. It's gold, and you should take it and listen to it and follow it.
but
Definitely.
even something as simple as, and I don't think a lot of people realize it, and I'm sorry if I'm ruining the secret for a lot of
No,
people,
no.
but like people don't realize, like, you have to pitch your offer three different ways to
Mhm.
actually make that sale. And the formula teaches you how to pitch it in those three very distinct styles that aren't all necessarily just, here's my offer.
Right.
Yes, there is one that is that, but there's two others that are nowhere near like that. And you have to
Hmm.
have all three to be successful. And
Positioning. Right.
yeah,
Right. Positioning is important. It's funny, it's not something we discuss on the show very often, to be honest. It's not something that comes up as we're discussing the journey. But I'm glad you brought it up because it is super important. When you're doing your pitch, there's a variation of them. It shouldn't just be this one-liner standard ops because that one-liner standard, it's like one size fits all. That doesn't necessarily work for everything. You can't sell one size fits all for
right.
everything. You might get away with it for water bottles. But when it comes to a pair of sneakers, you're gonna
This can
struggle
of
with the
Mountain Dew that
sale.
might work.
There you go. But again, it's definitely positioning in the market is super important, whether it is a product or your services that you're attempting to sell. So, Justin, thank you for that. I am really, really excited to hear where you see Great X Studios going, what you think the future of virtual events looks like in, 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I'm going to answer the question that everyone is probably thinking: virtual events are not dead. They're not. They're not going anywhere. They're here to stay. And if anything, they're actually more impactful now than they were
Yes.
5 years ago.
Mm,
Um, where I see Grey Duck, Grey Duck is a very fast moving train right now, and it's growing pretty fast. But we just like doing what we're doing, and we're just along for the ride, and we're excited for our virtual event. We're crazy enough. We're going to host our own virtual event, the virtual event Blueprint in June,
yeah.
June 19th through the 21st. It's a really, really fun event that you will not want to miss. And we're going to reveal all the secrets. Well, maybe not all, but a good chunk.
Well, I am excited for it. So I will make sure to drop a registration link. If you share that over, we'll drop that on the show notes page as well to make sure that everybody is ready for that event. June 19th, guys. Block out your calendars now. It's going to be a busy weekend. So
19 through the 21st. It's
19th
three
through
full
21st.
days.
Awesome. That is very exciting. So I am looking forward to it, looking forward to learn all about the secrets of Grey Duck Studios. So
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and see if, in fact, you have the ability to rewind the clock long before Duck Studios, long before the pandemic, long before college, even. If you had the ability to go back and say, tell yourself just one thing before any of this journey ever even became a thought process,
Mhm.
what do you feel like that would have been? What would you have told yourself at this point?
I honestly don't even know. I mean, enjoy the ride. It's been a crazy ride, but it honestly I wouldn't have changed any way of it happening. It was so natural and organic. It
Mhm.
wasn't like pushed upon, but it just because it was so natural and organic, I wouldn't change it. I kind of love that discovery process that when it happened.
Enjoy it. That's the most important part of this journey because regardless as to where the entrepreneurial journey ends up, it's the journey that matters the most. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for that answer. That's what this show is all about, sharing the journey. Because I don't think it's shared enough. I don't think anybody talks about what the actual journey itself looks like. A lot
Yeah.
of us talk about the successes. A lot of us talk about products and promotions and things of that sort. But I think giving that real insight into the journey itself is important. So thank you for that because enjoying this journey is truly, one of the bigger pieces. So as you know, Justin, the show is really designed in hopes of helping the audience come up with an idea for a business and an industry that they may not have been thinking of as, the go-to strategist at this
Mhm.
point, post-pandemic. I'd love to know if you have the ability to change anything at all in terms of virtual events, in terms of your industry or Gray Duck Studios. If
Mhm.
you could wave that magic wand and adjust something, what do you feel like that would be?
I wish people would be willing to take the risk more, not be so laser focused on in person. We have a client. I don't know. You may know him if you do. Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek.
Mhm.
Um, he is phenomenal. He still runs the event today. We're involved with that event every time. It's coming up in June, their boot camp. And they had run that event so many times in person that it finally took me looking at Mark and saying, why are you trying to go back?
Mm.
Why? Because you're more successful now doing it virtually
Mhm.
than you were before. Like,
Mhm.
resist as hard as it is. I know people want that physical connection.
Mhm.
And yes, there is still a time and a place for in person. I'm not saying there isn't. But if you think about, you get a much wider audience. There's
Mhm.
so many positives to virtual. Just,
Mhm.
if you have someone telling you go for it.
I agree. Take the plunge, people. Stop being scared of virtual events. They are far more productive and far more fun than I think you guys realize. So I suggest you guys definitely check out Grey Duck Studios and Justin Lawrie. Justin, you have been outstanding. I thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today.
You're very welcome.